Okay, so it's 9 o'clock, time to start. Welcome everyone to the PhD defense of Chea Eliyan with the thesis title Estimating Qualities and Quantities of Fecal Sludge to Determine Resource Recovery Potential, a case study in Phnom Penh, Cambodia. My name is Cecilia Velander. I'm an associate professor in technology, and I have been appointed by the faculty to chair this session. So, just for your information, this session is being recorded. So, I'm gonna tell you about the procedure. First, Eliyan will present her thesis for approximately 30 minutes. Then we will give the floor to the opponent, who will ask the respondent questions until she feels that the thesis has been thoroughly examined. But we will have a break at 10:30, which is in 1.5 hours, so that we all can stretch our legs and get some oxygen to our brains. When the opponent is satisfied, we will leave the word to the evaluation committee with any additional questions, which we hope there will be many. And lastly, but not least, we will open up the floor for questions from the audience and Zoom. So if you have any questions in Zoom, you type them. And once all questions have been asked, we will close this session and the evaluation committee will have a post-seminar discussion up on the 5th floor and decide whether the candidate pass or fail. So I'm going to present everyone involved here. So first and foremost, we have the candidate, Chea Eliyan. She holds a bachelor in chemistry from the Royal University of Phnom Penh, Cambodia, and a master in environmental engineering and management from the School of Environment, Resources and Development from the Asian Institute of Technology in Thailand. Her PhD education is part of SIDA's bilateral program at Royal University of Phnom Penh, and her PhD education has been shared between SLU and Royal University of Phnom Penh. The opponent is Dr. Mariska Ronteltap. She is the senior process engineer at the Delfland Water Authority in the Netherlands. Then we have Professor Michael Templeton from the Imperial College in London, UK. Professor Tuula Tukkanen from the Department of Biological and Environmental Science from the Jyväskylä, sorry, I don't know how to pronounce that, University in Finland. And Associate Professor Sebastian Schwede from Akademin för ekonomi, samhälle och teknik from Mälardalens University in Västerås. And the supervisor group, we have the main supervisor, Professor Björn Winnerås from our department here at the SLU, and the co-supervisors, we have Associate Professor Jennifer McConville, also from the Department of Energy and Technology. We have Professor Christian Sybrug, also from our Technology and Science Department of EWAG in Switzerland. He's online. And we have Professor Tamarat Kotetap from School of Environment, Resources and Development, Environmental Engineering and Management at the Asian Institute of Technology in Thailand, and Dr. Kuk Sutea from the Faculty of Science at the Royal University of Phnom Penh in Cambodia. So, before we start, I would like to ask you, Eliyan, do you have anything you want to add to your thesis? No. No. Great. Okay. So please.
Thank you, Cecilia, and good morning, everyone. First of all, I would like to thank all the evaluation committees and the opponent for being present today, despite your tight schedule. Looking forward to a good discussion. Also, thanks all of you who present in this room, and also those who are participating online. So, I will start with the background of my study. So, on-site sanitation serves around 3.4 billion people globally, a system which requires faecal sludge management. A proper faecal sludge management involves the management of the whole sanitation service chain, starting from user interface, sufficient emptying and transportation, and appropriate treatment technology which would enable safe reuse and disposal. Unfortunately, there was only 54% of population had access to safely managed service, and those who are still struggling with unsafely managed service living in low and middle income country, and the challenge faced by unsafely managed service due to insufficient service coverage, inappropriate collection and transportations, which often end up with fecal sludge dump in open environment or the nearby neighborhood, causing serious environmental pollution as well as public health. And in most cases, in those cities, there were no treatment plants, or even they exist, but they are not well operated. Let's take a closer look at the African and Asian context in terms of on-site sanitation system. It's around 58% of the on-site sanitations are in the form of pit latrines, while in Asian context, most of the cities are having the containment unit that discharge through the open drains, which is called waterborne system. So it's turned out as difficult to extrapolate the findings in African city to Asian cities, given the fact that the containment system are different. One is dry system and the other one is wet system. And here some fact about Phnom Penh is one of the city in Asian, which a total population of 2 million, which is divided into 500,000 households. And the city is surrounded by the two extensive wetlands, which play a key role as natural wastewater treatment generated in Phnom Penh. And the city serves most of the population served by on-site sanitation, which is up to around 85%. And since we are rich in water, so the whole city's water supply coverage is around already 93%. And flush toilet is commonly used in Phnom Penh, which is called the waterborne system, as a flush toilet connected to an on-site containment unit. As shown in the pictures, for the unit that are connected to the urban drainage network, still have the supernatant flow out from the system. And when the containment is full or clogged, it's normally empty, and only the natural wetland is the authorized disposal site, receiving all the fecal sludge in the whole city before discharging to public water body. According to the study by Chea Eliyan in 2015, they concluded there was 0% of safely managed service in Phnom Penh. And the most recent studies also confirm the same, meaning that Phnom Penh is still struggling in providing safely managed service to reach sustainable development goal in 2030. So what can we do with that? There is a paradigm shift in viewing waste as a resource, which is an opportunity for sustainable sanitation and fecal sludge management. This can be done through a more circular system that could be introduced. For instance, sludge can be collected from the containment unit and sent to a treatment plant, and the product from treatment plant could be reused for agriculture. This would benefit environment in terms of pollution control, avoiding discharge sludge into environment, as well as protecting public health. However, how can a more circular system can be implemented, given the fact that there is a variation in terms of generation rate of fecal sludge from one city to another? A general practice of the sanitation management in the household levels also different, make a wide variation in quality of fecal sludge, which is also a challenge to implement fecal sludge management planning. That's why This research was aimed to support fiscal sludge management planning at city-wide scale, focusing on the waterborne system. So the main focus of the analysis was to determine the resource recovery potential from fecal sludge. Fecal sludge here refer to the sludge generated from waterborne system. So the specific objective of the study was to provide baseline data on physical, chemical quality and quantity, as well as related them to demographic and technical condition of the containment unit. And also identify physical sludge management practice, logistic, material flow pathway, and also quantify the nutrient content in the sludge, and determine the concentration of heavy metals and assess its suitability for agricultural reuse, as well as the treatment alternative with resource recovery potentials, which could incentivize and support sanitation stakeholders in Phnom Penh and also in other low and middle income countries. So this thesis is based on the following 4 published papers and with the following structures, starting from paper 1, categorizing physical chemical quality of fecal sludge and its influencing factors, and paper 2, quantifying fecal sludge and also the current management and material flow pathway. With the finding from the first 2 papers, paper 3 look into the heavy metal contamination and assess the suitability for resource recovery. And the last paper identify the treatment technology for resource recovery potentials to tackle the current challenge of fecal sludge management in Phnom Penh. So this is the approach that was applied for the data collection of paper 1 to paper 3, which is at multiple stages, starting from physical sludge sampling and data analysis. So the data collection of sludge sample were at 2 rounds. The first round was collected around 200 samples from household source, which is used for paper 1, while restaurants and household source of fecal sludge were collected in both rainy season and dry season for 42 samples, which was used for paper 3. So after collecting the samples, some of the on-site parameters were measured, while the rest of the parameter was sent to laboratory for the further analysis. For stakeholder survey, 2 target stakeholders were emptying and transportation operator and the household who have their containment empty. Were interviewed and collect more data regarding the demographic info as well as the technical condition of the containment. And for field observation were also conducted to collect information that could not be accurately obtained during the interview with stakeholders. And mainly for tracking the disposal sites, we asked the permission from emptying and transportation operators to follow along the track and track the coordination number of the disposal site. The 4-step approach was used for paper 4, which starting from step 1, identification of available options, which were mainly based on the published literatures, and a list of treatment alternative for fecal sludge, including primary and secondary treatment, was compiled, and it's then were brought into step 2, which is narrowing down the possible option, which includes the prerequisites, which is Phnom Penh-based contact. And the narrow list of treatment options was also developed in this step, while the prerequisite used for the assessment includes chemical requirement, energy requirement and process complexity for the assessments of primary treatment alternative, while reduced potential were included for the assessment of secondary treatment technology. After the second step, third step and fourth step were implemented only for the secondary treatment options, and also include the multi-criteria assessments in step 3 and 4. And finally, around 2 to 3 treatment options were identified, which is based on the scoring from MCA criteria and the discussion and ranking with stakeholders. So, multi-criteria include in the study were social, technical, financial, health, and environment and institutional criteria. For the data collection, for these assessments include, for example, social technical criteria, only literature reviews and online survey were used. For instance, for the indicator robustness of technology, we refer to literature review, while the acceptance of reused product mainly based on online survey from general public in Phnom Penh. And the financial criteria, it was mainly based on literatures and expert judgment, where since literature is still limited in determining the cost and also the reduced product value. While health criteria and environmental criteria were mainly based on literature review, but we excluded the institutional criteria given the fact that during the interview with stakeholders, we realized that stakeholder lack of certain knowledge in the narrow list of the treatment technology, and we decided to exclude institutional criteria in the assessment. So this map presents the study here area of this paper, of this thesis. This is the map of Cambodia, while this is map of Phnom Penh. The black dot indicate the sampling spot that we collect the sludge sample from household, as well as the interview to collect demographic and technical data of the containment were conducted. The pin red color represent the two disposal site identified in the study. For the data during data collection of paper 2, while new disposal site were identified during data collection of paper 3, and it was used to replace the two sample wastewater canals to collect the samples for paper 3. Yeah, so here's the results. So first of all, this graphics represents sanitation management in Phnom Penh, which classify into geographical locations. So among all the variable studies, only 4 variables that statistically significant difference between peri-urban and urban area. For instance, connection to the drainage network. It seems urban residents get full access to the connection to the drainage, while watertight containment mainly were used by urban populations, as well as the age of the infrastructure is the containment of the age of the containment in urban area seems older and aging compared to peri-urban area, while different reasons for emptying also observed between peri-urban and urban areas. Clogging issues were mainly found as the reason for clogging in urban residents, while only when the emptying were full were identified for peri-urban population. So this is the physical chemical quality. So in overall, the concentration of all the study physical chemical parameters of physical sludge in Phnom Penh were at the lower range compared to other reported value. And if comparing the range between from a maximum to minimum to maximum value, indicating, for instance, for BOD concentrations, the minimum could be 100, while the maximum can be up to 8,000, indicating big variations in terms of concentrations of sludge sample from one to another, while multiple contributors to the low concentrations of fecal sludge include waterborne system. As indicated earlier, Phnom Penh is not a water stress city, so have plenty of water, and flush toilet is commonly used. So there is a chance that the sludge gets diluted, and also the connection to the drainage network, which supernatant keep flowing out from the containment. And the containment itself, it collects a mix of domestic wastewater fractions, as well as water were identified as the only substance that was added during emptying event. So those four factors in combination together make sludge quality in Phnom Penh at a lower concentration. And 7 influence factors were identified that likely influence to the physical chemical quality of fecal sludge, but only 3 of them were statistically significant to the sludge quality, which include wastewater fraction that collected in the containment, as well as emptying practice and connection to the drainage network. So this is the concentration of heavy metal. By comparing different seasons, namely dry and rainy seasons, reveal the concentrations of heavy metal is statistically significant between seasons, except for mercury, nickel, and zinc. However, in general, the concentration of those studied heavy metals were higher in rainy season compared to dry season. And if compared with the 2 standards, it means Cambodia organic fertilizer standard and physics standard for compost, reveal all the studied metals, almost all of them except mercury and zinc, was still within the permissible standard for both local standard and Swedish compost. But for if comparing with the mean concentrations in terms of milligram per kilogram phosphorus recovered, it indicates almost all the study metals were higher than the mineral P fertilizers, which posing limit reduced potentials of physical sludge in Phnom Penh. So this map represent the disposal sites, the 2 disposal sites, and also the points where physical sludge were collected. And the 2 main wetlands here play a key role as the receiver of physical sludge from Phnom Penh at the disposal sites. And based on spatial analysis and the linear distance calculation, the average travel distance within the the source to the disposal site is around 3.4 kilometers for one site, and the other side is 4.3 kilometers. By estimating the buffer zone between disposal sites to the source of the sludge, indicating preferred travel distance is within less than 9 kilometers, given the fact that it's already for zone 1 and zone 2 sludge discharges were already 93%. So it means travel distance really matter in terms of the decisions to dispose of the sludge by emptying in transportation operator. So this table represents the sludge quantities and the material flow pathway in Phnom Penh. So the total amount of fecal sludge empty was only 110 liters per capita per year, which is also, since emptying frequency is also less, it was around 22%. So the total quantity of fecal sludge empty was only 33,000 cubic meters per year. If compared to the amount of flash water use and excreta per use, it is super small. But and it's finally end up in the wetland, as shown in the picture. But by estimating the total nitrogen and phosphorus in the sludge, it indicates there are around 65 tons and 13 tons of total nitrogen and phosphorus can be recovered and used as fertilizers, avoiding discharge them off to the wetlands with the current practices. Therefore, there are three alternatives identified in this study to tackle the current fecal sludge management practice in Phnom Penh. For instance, a short-term solution such as the use of treated fecal sludge as soil conditioner, a medium solution, use of upstream source prevention to avoid the contaminant get into the containment, and a long-term solution is to use the source separation system. So I start with a short-term solutions to use treated sludge as soil conditioner, which is require a minimal change or no change of the infrastructure. Since mix of fecal sludge can be collected, either it is from the containment that is connected to urban drainage pipe, or it is unconnected containment. So the truck can collect all types of fecal sludge and send it to a single treatment plant. And considering two treatment technologies that can be treated the sludge, given the fact that the two treatment technologies such as solar drying and vermicomposting can produce US EPA Class B biosolid that would generate enough quality of treated sludge to be used as soil conditioner for the city park. For the medium-term alternative to use sludge as the upstream source control, three options need to be implemented, or it can be just implement one of those, or it can be combination for three of them. For example, a zone classification, meaning that sludge need to the truck will collect only the containment unit that is not connected to the drainage network, since we speculate that the containment unit that is unconnected would produce the sludge that is in low concentration or in negligible concentration of heavy metal. And otherwise, it's a combination of disconnecting containment unit from the drainage network, which is also would be an alternative that also indicating in master plan of JICA. While public campaign can also be included and implemented by local authorities to make the people aware of what to dispose of in the containment unit or whatnot. So the sludge that collected from these options is expected to have low concentration of heavy metal, which then can be the three alternatives can be used to treat the sludge. For example, co-composting, which believed to produce class A biosolids that is in good qualities for use as fertilizer for edible crops. However, the other two treatment options, like vermicomposting or fly larvae composting, even it is produce only class B biosolids, but it can also be pre-treated or post-treated to inactivate the pathogenic contaminations and make it feasible for fertilizer for edible crop, given the fact that it's also produce the other valuable reuse product like worm and the larvae. The last alternative, which is source separation system. The first alternatives could be to separate black water from other wastewater fractions, which is then gray water can send to treatment city wastewater treatment plant before discharging to public water body, while black water, which we believe it contains a high concentration of nutrient and high amount of nutrient could be recovered, but we need to consider what are the treatment technology that are appropriate before using black water as fertilizer or fertigation for full recovery of nutrient. The other alternative in source separation system is to use urine diversion toilets, which is to separate urine from other wastewater fractions, which we believe urine contain high concentrations of nutrient, which again can be used as fertilizer or fertigation, but it totally depends on what are the treatment alternatives that will be applied, and also the stakeholder need to consider the trade-off between technology. Yeah, so here come to the conclusions. The first conclusion is the quality of faecal sludge in Phnom Penh were low, resulting from multiple factors, include the waterborne system by the use of the waterborne system in the city, and also additions of water during emptying the containment unit that capture much wastewater fraction, as well as the connection to the urban drainage network. Secondly, we conclude there is a low reuse potentials in faecal sludge in Phnom Penh, given the low concentration of nutrient can be recovered in combination with high concentration of heavy metal. And also, we need to consider on how to reduce the transport distance, given when designing for new treatment plants, given the fact that it's influence emptying and transportation operator in terms of where they would dispose of the sludge to save the travel time and cost. And the three alternatives can be considered to tackle the current faecal sludge management in Phnom Penh, include the use of biosolids as soil conditioner, the implementation of upstream source pollution control, and the source separation of domestic wastewater fraction. And Last but not least, in selecting treatment technology, we have sustainability criteria indicators and sub-indicators that were used in these studies were Phnom Penh context, but it could also be a good starting point for sector stakeholder in other cities of low and middle income country when planning for fecal sludge management for those cities that have comparable sanitation situation. So last point, the future research. Supernatant, which perhaps it has a high potential for use in irrigation or fertigation. But we need to consider what are the appropriate treatment technology. So treatment technology to treat supernatant before reusing it would need further investigation. And in this study, we identify only the distance that would be the factor for the decision in deciding to dispose in where to dispose of the sludge by operator, but we did not provide a clear-cut solutions on how to overcome the indiscriminate disposal. So the key enabler and barrier to overcome the indiscriminate disposals would need further investigation, and also a concern on the elevated concentration of heavy metal would limit the reuse potential, and also there would be a good alternative to look into where are the source of heavy metal contaminations and make a corrective measures for pollution prevention. And source separations, which theoretically it has high value in terms of nutrient recover. Perhaps it needs to be further investigated in terms of the key enabler and barrier of implementation of such a new system in the context of Phnom Penh and other low and middle income countries, ensuring a successful implementation. And the prerequisite and sustainability criteria used in this study, of course, it can be a starting point for sector stakeholder in other cities of low and middle income country, but perhaps we need to take into account on what are the transferability and applicability in the different settings. And the potential of reuse product from the treatment technology, for instance, vermicomposting and the fly larvae composting, it obviously generates the higher value in terms of worm and larvae, but it is also new in Phnom Penh, and perhaps a further investigations on local acceptability of those reuse products would be necessary before implementation. And last but not least, the risk assessment of the reuse products that would be necessary to avoid other potential risks from introducing a reused product to local people. Yes, that's it. Thank you so much. Thanks for everyone involved in my study, including SIDA, ISP, the supervisor group, stakeholders, and PIC MTL. Krapslo Technique College and ET College friends and family. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Eliyan. So now we will give the floor to Mariska for the questioning. Thank you.
You need my help?
Yeah. Good. Relieved?
Yes. Excellent. Thank you for the nice presentation and for the thesis, which, as you can see, was very interesting reading material. What I found very interesting, you write very well, and what I found very nice is that you took a lot of the stuff from the methods book and tried to implement all this work. So that for me was very nice, and that was also one of the key, let's say, goals of your thesis, was to really do this estimation of the qualification, the quantification of the fecal sludge, really focused in one city and take all the elements from all the researchers, putting it into one location, and then see what you can do with this knowledge. And exactly on this last part, I would like to ask a lot of questions. Because that really fascinated me. Like, how did you now merge all this knowledge that you have and see, like, first of all, why are the problems where they are? And then, second of all, what can you now do with this knowledge? And from a research and academic point of view, but also from a city point of view, like, how could they make the best of this knowledge? Okay, so I'm going to first start with a bit of a general question, and that is also because I really would like, I've now seen your academic summary of what you did, but I would also really like to know is, like, of all these things that you presented, which of these research findings took you the most effort, and which of these research findings are you yourself the most proud of?
For the most effort, I think I would say the MCA, which is quite new to me, and I am inspired by my co-supervisor Jennifer to do the job. Yeah, and I remember it took me a year to write this paper, and also it took us some time as well to get it published. Yeah, then I would count it as a big effort in that. And then the finding, I think something that is quite new to me is the heavy metal concentration in the sludge, which I think I might not be alone, my supervisor group as well. It was a surprise to us to see the high concentration of the sludge, which many reported the literature says it's low, it has a high potential to be used as fertilizers for soil conditioner, which is really high value in terms of nutrient, which we should not dispose of. But in fact, we have found something different.
Yes,
yeah,
a big disappointment, I can imagine.
Right.
But also quite some obvious reasons for finding this, I would say. So first, back to your MCA. I saw that you quoted my student, Alex Katukisa, who is now working in this field already since his graduation in 2011. So I asked him to look at your paper and say, hey, Alex, what do you think about this methodology? And what he found interesting is that you seem to have taken a lot of the technologies that you wanted to have in the MCA from literature. And he works a lot in Kampala, and he did always work in Boise, which is one of the very low income areas and high dense areas in Uganda. And he did a lot of his identification of technologies within the area, and just walked around with graphics and asked, would you be able to use this? Would this be applicable? And he was wondering, why do you take a lot of the technologies from literature and not so much from local settings and see the local applicability?
I think one point was that it seems we do not have many literature with regard to Phnom Penh. That is one point. But obviously, we try to speculate it as a low and middle income city, so that the technologies can also, like, even it is not really from the local perspective, but it's from low and middle income country, which is, we believe Phnom Penh is not a single city alone, which is totally different from other. Which then, but in our step 2, we include a prerequisite, which is obviously Phnom Penh contact. And again, we are not different from other, so perhaps it can be also similar to other settings. For instance, chemicals requirement for those technology that needs more chemicals, perhaps it might not be feasible in the context like us. We even do not have chemical supplier, and we face a challenge in getting chemical even for our research. How can we get a chemical for a large scale treatment technologies like faecal sludge or other wastewater treatment?
On the global perspective, we all need to work to chemical-free treatments. So that's maybe a good thing. What I was wondering myself is, which of the technologies did you rule out in front? And can you elaborate on this? Like on your step 1, which technologies fell off the map?
I think in our step 1, we try to include all the technologies. So I mean that includes the setting as well. It means whatever the available technology for faecal sludge treatment, we include them all. But it was differentiate between the secondary and primary treatment technologies. So it means it was generated based on general treatment technology point of view, I would say, at the first step. But then only the second step that we narrowed down a bit to the city context, like including the prerequisite.
And you focused mainly on technologies that end up with a product that you can reuse in agriculture.
No, it was not that, but just because of the prerequisite requirement, for instance, the chemical, the energy, and the process complexity. So it seems like all other technology, for instance, pyrolysis, it's a bit complex, perhaps. That's why it fell out of the list. So it was not our intention that's just to take the technology that is generate a fertilizer for agriculture. It was not.
We discussed yesterday quite a bit about energy in your country, and it seems like, yes, of course, you have to put effort, but it is available. Considering also the amount of heavy metals that you have present, would you not reconsider a technology that costs quite some energy, but also gives you a product that maybe not reused in agriculture, but at least it's a product that you can use, and you don't end up with heavy metals in your agricultural soils?
I agree on that. The sludge with high concentration of heavy metal, it also has the potential to be used as a source of energy. But considering the other aspect, for instance, the stakeholder capacity to operate the system, given the fact that I might be wrong, I'm not quite sure, but perhaps the technology that generates the energy, which needs more skillful personnel, and also considering the process complexities, it seems not feasible for the time being.
For the time being, okay.
Yeah.
But it might be something, yeah. But all of these things take time, right?
Yeah,
You also are designing things for 2035 to 2045. I'm not saying you have to do this. I'm just wondering why this is ruled out because of your composition. Now, we'll go back to this point later, but for now, a little bit on the composition of your wastewater. What I find fascinating is the part that you have so many households connected to the drainage. Because in many countries, we've been teaching this topic all over the world, and also in many European countries, in the US, thinking about this drainage from your septic tank is very uncommon. You know, people just think, okay, I have a system, something is contained in this, processes are happening, and where's the fascination, and then that's the emptying, but the drainage, is there also some water coming out? And you have a big collection system for this, and then it goes to the wetlands, which you could have your opinion on, but you at least have a containment system for your drainage, and it goes somewhere. So there's two things that I find fascinating. First is this backflow that you get there, which leads you to problems with your heavy metal contents.
Yeah.
But I was wondering, did you do a thorough analysis of this drainage water?
No. And currently I would say no. There's no data on that.
There is no data yet on this. What would you expect there? What would be your expectation of the composition of your drain water in a dry season?
You mean the supernatant?
Well, you have lots of things collected in the drain water,
Yeah. I think for supernatant, first of all, it's might contain high concentration of nutrients.
Nutrients, yes.
Yeah.
And
NPs, and I don't think heavy metal is there, since heavy metal tends to attach to the solid fractions, I would say. So perhaps it has high reuse potentials, but it's still
it's still very
assumption.
diluted.
Yeah.
Okay. So if you, I haven't been to your city. I don't know what the drainage system looks like. But could you imagine at some point that you talk about decentralized transfer stations, decentralized, collection systems. Could you think of a low-tech, not too expensive system that would manage some nutrients in your drainage already before it is discharged?
I think the alternative that we can consider is about source separations, which I also included in the alternative. But the fact is that what is the feasibility of introducing that kind of system? It needs some certain driver, which is not there yet.
But source separation means making some changes in the households.
Yes, but perhaps you might also notice that we seem to have a source separation as well, in terms of the black water collection only in the containment and the collection of mixed wastewater, which happens mostly in peri-urban area of Phnom Penh.
Yeah.
So it seems like source separation is there, but yet we have not realized that.
Yeah. I'm missing one important contaminant in your drainage, and that's pathogens. Yeah, so that is also a very important part to take into account if you want to do anything with this drainage water. It's in the fecal sludge itself, but also in this drainage. Now you have this fantastic working natural treatment system, which is your wetland. I've seen some nice publications on the evaluation of how this works as a treatment plant. But it's also under threat because of all the housing moving in. So reduction of wetland on the one hand and increasing of fecal sludge on the other hand. What could you do in order to make more obvious the treatment capacity of your wetland?
What can I do?
Because you now talk about I need a public campaign to get source separation in the households, but would you not rather push your effort towards showing the?
I think it's, I would say in our context, it's a bit beyond the capacity as a researcher or as a person in the academic institutions like us to actually influence the decision maker on preserving the wetland.
I cannot imagine.
Yeah.
But the same would be for getting separation toilets in the households.
Yeah, it
Okay.
applies the same, and that is why here I am here, just to learn how the Swedish context they work together and link between the academic and the sector stakeholder decision in driving the sanitation system in Sweden.
Can I bother you to put back one of your slides of your presentation?
Which one?
Number 24, please.
Is it this one?
Yes. So this is a fascinating one with all these numbers being put together. What I really miss is you say that backflow is also an important part, and that gives you all the pushback of the heavy metals into your system, and that is not even in this slide. Where, if you would take this into account, where would this be represented? In which number?
I think it is the amount that need to be empty.
Yes, I would say so too.
Yes.
So that would then increase the emptying part. And that really changes your composition of your fecal sludge, right? It's because of the backflow. It has very low organics, but it has all these heavy metals in it. And you say my options are to do upstream source separation, and what else did you say?
All the three. The upstream source separation, the use of treated fecal sludge as soil conditioner, and the source separation. I mean, this is referred to separate between wastewater fraction.
Now, one of the things that you also applied, you also advocate in your thesis, and is also really advocated in the book, is to do regular desludging. Could this help you in this issue? To have a regulated desludging campaign?
I think it might use a bit, but I would believe it is still there since it's already contaminated. I mean, even if this study have found the higher concentration of heavy metal in rainy season, but even it is in dry season, the metal is also there. Perhaps, I mean, it's already contaminated to some extent. It is not actually at a super low concentration that is,
So you would argue it's not only the backflow, it's everything altogether that causes the heavy metal concentration?
From the household source, I think even from excreta is in the amount that is acceptable. But I mean, one is there, and with the connection to the drainage, it might be slightly lower, but perhaps it's not that at a concentration that is negligible.
I was reading in your papers where you state where the heavy metals come from, and you quote a lot from a lady called Friedler. And but this is all from literature, and it says that mercury is a lot from maybe dental work, and maybe the cadmium is a lot from the runoff from the road, but it's very sort of general description. And you seem to have very, very high concentrations. Would it be worthwhile to, like, what are your theories that these could be where could be these two sources really coming from? Have you tried to look for other sources to identify them?
I would say we only speculate that it's not really exactly that source. That's why it's one of my future research is to look into what are the actual source of heavy metal that would then we can take really the appropriate options to tackle with sludge contamination with heavy metal.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Back to a nutrient that we do like to use, which is nitrogen. Can you talk me a bit about, because you did a lot of analysis, and then at some point you figured out, hey, my analysis is not working properly, I have interference, or I don't have enough oxygen, like a donation of a chemical. Talk me through this. Explain to me what you did before, how you realized that there was a mistake, and how this changed your results.
Yes, it reminds me back with our first paper that we analyze total nitrogen and ammonia nitrogen, and then what we suspect is the total nitrogen. The some of the samples we got the concentration of total nitrogen is it's like lower than ammonium nitrogen, which is theoretically is not true. Yeah, even if the mean concentration is lower, but it is slightly lower as I remember correctly. Yeah. And also by comparing with the literature review, our nitrogen was lower than the reported value, and also it's like lower than total phosphorus, which is again It's not true. For paper 3, we collect again the samples, but it was from restaurant and household sources. And I did the analysis again, and it again happened the same. And since we have small number of samples, it even show almost all the 21 samples, just some of them, small number of them that have higher concentration of total nitrogen than ammonium nitrogen. And we discuss among the supervisor group, try to find out what would be the problem, because obviously it must be a problem. But from the first paper, it seems like, yeah, it might not, since perhaps there might be source of total phosphorus from other sources, since our containment is also collected mix of wastewater fraction. Perhaps it contribute from detergents and other chemicals that contribute to the higher concentration of total phosphorus. By then, we realized that it's really a problem. And I did the analysis again and again. I think it was 3 times, 4 times. I don't remember, but at least 3 times. We try to test the concentration of COD, which we believe it is one of the interference to actually convert all the nitrogen into organic nitrogen, that into nitrate that can be measured by photometer to get the total concentration of total nitrogen. Yeah, and then by taking that and follow the instruction carefully, reading what are the interference, then we have found the issue.
So by reading the manual, you got it.
Yes, but yeah.
But this is a crucial point, right?
Right.
Because you are one of the many fecal sludge researchers, and there's such a huge gap between what we know about diluted wastewater and all the research part that come from there, how to translate this into modeling. And this is like an upcoming field of fecal sludge researchers. That's why we have this book. So your chapter needs to be in the second version. You have to make sure that this is there. Right? Use it as a case study, like keep the old data, put the new ones next to it, and show the gap. This is your assignment for after this.
Yeah,
and very important.
Yeah, and also I forgot to mention that we also have planned to write the other paper, which is not included in this thesis as the methodological paper for total nitrogen analysis.
Excellent. So it's already in.
Unfortunately, I have not, like, I'm still in the middle way of doing that.
Well, it's timely for the next book. That's really good. No, but this is a crucial part of information. So good that you found it. You know, this error thing always gives a lot of new insights. So use it well. Very nice. Okay, and the next thing I wanted you to talk me through was your questionnaires. I said before we're gonna go back to this. I also noticed that you thanked the pit emptiers in your final slide, which is a crucial part of your research, obviously. So can you talk me again? You said you did the whole year, so you must have a lot of knowledge about the whole way of setting up the questionnaires and getting the right answers, checking. Did you have like a validity group? How did you set up this whole research and make sure it was a good one?
For questionnaire development, I actually the one who started doing the questionnaire by again looking into literature reviews, what are the questionnaire for household survey and more specifically for fecal sludge. And then also checking the objective, what are my objective of the study. Yeah, and then and I think then we did the validation with some few samples with the households, and it was, I remember it was very detailed in the socio-economic part, their job, even the occupation of the families members, things like that, even more detail. And I got the angry from one household, and it was not one, it was some other household that they did not happy to respond to my question when asking for more detailed information about their job. And then based on that feedback, we divide it into this version, having only like a more general socioeconomic status rather than having much more detail that make they do not feel happy.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, and one of your recommendations was also to kind of cut off the drainage pipes from the septic tanks, because then you would not have the backflow. And but what would that mean for these households that do have the drainage?
I think that suggestion is also aligned with one of the suggestions that is written in JICA strategic plan for wastewater management. That because by having the subcontinent keep flowing to the drainage, it perhaps, I guess they also realize the higher concentrations of the containment units of the wastewater that from the containment unit, which is faecal sludge or black water. And and I believe that would help in terms of reducing the concentration of heavy metal. But I am not quite sure what are the reaction from households. But I think that is something that is feasible in that case, because the drainage is the public property, as long as they have a good strategies to actually raise the awareness of the local people. Because with the current practice, for the new construction households, they do not need to ask for permission to connect.
My point is, I guess you also asked for how much they pay for the emptying services, and
Yes.
how often they're being emptied, and what is their motivation for emptying. If you would now cut them off from the drainage system, this water will still be there, you know? So
Yes.
what's going to happen? They will have to empty much more often, because it stays in there.
Yeah.
Or you discharge it to the very surrounding area, but that will cause a lot of local health and environmental problems. So if you cut them off and keep it in the septic system, the emptying cost and the emptying frequency is going to go up very drastically.
Yes, obviously it would be like that, but I think they are not allowed to discharge it freely as well, even if this at the wastewater fraction as well. Since the plant is going to have the tariff for wastewater discharge, which is equal to water consumption rate, as I believe, since it is still in the draft. But then nothing is free then.
That's for sure. But what you're now what I'm trying to go for is to realize that it's all connected, right? Because we just have these households, and people use the restrooms, and they use their washing machines, and they wash the dishes. So the water will be there, and it will have that pollution that it has from an original household. The problem that makes it more difficult is the heavy metals from the backflow, but also from the containment. What you now have is a system where you have a reasonably working septic tank system with a drainage that goes to your wetland. And if you're gonna change that and cut into this, then the water is not going to disappear, but it's going to
in the containment.
Yeah, it's going to interfere into your septic tank operation, into your much more high frequent emptying, and then travel the more than 9 kilometers to your new treatment plant. So that's what I'm trying to make the click, that it seems okay to stop the heavy metals from going into your system, but it's going to create a lot more other problems. So that's why it has an effect on the households. That's what I'm trying to go for. Yes, okay. Some other points. What we don't talk at all about, well, a little bit when you say you want to go for organic fertilizer, is the fact that we don't only have nitrogen, we don't only have phosphorus, not only heavy metals, but we also have a lot of organic C, organic carbon in your system. I was told very recently by someone who owns a company to harvest organic carbon that this is going to be a big thing in the future, organic carbon, because all the big companies are looking for sustainable sources for organic carbon, and they're trying to harvest from our wastewater treatment plants. Please give your cellulose to us, give your sludge to us, because we need this organic compound. How would you see that demand for organic bouncy in your sanitation system? Do you see any option for harvesting that at some point, at some location, at some phase in your treatment line?
I have not considered that, but if talking about the organic compound, I think it has a potential to produce the biogas, for example, generating the electricity or whatever. I did not go into that. But other things, I actually do not have no idea. I mean, I don't have an idea on that.
I'm sorry, Björn said
Yeah.
I could ask anything, so that's what I'm doing. It's important to realize,
Yeah,
because
yeah.
it's our
Obviously.
responsibility to take care of the whole wastewater system.
Yeah.
So what happens in the septic tank already is because you do have organically bound compound and you don't have oxygen typically in there, is that you already get methane production in your septic tank.
Yeah.
Right. So if you want to do anything with to prevent that, then your source operation would be a very good idea, because then you can quickly harvest it, and even if you keep it separate all the way from the beginning, then it's even more elegant, because you really have the fresh unpolluted stuff. Let's say. So by the time you really have septic tank sludge that has been in your system for a long time, then organically, most of the methane is that easily forms is already out. But you do have a lot of still, cell material that you could harvest at some point. It would be, in my opinion, worthwhile to also include this in your balances, especially when you also look into black soldier flies. And other co-composting also plays a very big role, because that's in fact why you're doing this, to stabilize your fecal sludge and deal with this unstable carbon compound. And it's the nitrogen and phosphorus that you don't treat and that your wetland is playing a big role in. Okay, a completely other question again. Linda Strandi and her colleagues, also from the UK and many other locations, very recently published a paper and say we should change the terminology altogether and stop talking about fecal sludge, because in fact it's all wastewater, and even quite dense fecal sludge still has a lot of water, and it just confuses people because they think, oh yeah, on-site sanitation system, that's something for the urban poor and we don't need to worry about it. We should make it a general concept. Wastewater is everyone's responsibility, and there's different technologies for different concentrations, but in fact it's all wastewater. What is your opinion on this?
Yes, I also went through that paper. It turned out as a surprise first time. But then I think considering the 4 or 5 classification based on how the wastewater is transported, either sewer transport, road transport, partially road transport or something. I think I partially agree, but not totally agree, because when you say road transport, for example, or sewer transport, in a Phnom Penh case, when you say road transport, it is applicable to some extent to the household that have that even they are connected or not connected to the drainage, but they actually have road transports in order to take away the sludge that is in the tank.
Of course.
But remember that the type of the containment is also different, meaning that it captures different types of wastewater fractions. It is not only just black water, but it's something else.
Mm-hmm.
And it can be totally different from one household to another. Perhaps those definitions would not be applicable in that specific case.
But then it's still wastewater.
Yes, it is. But it would not help in terms of, because the statement was that it would help in terms of the treatment. But in that case, I don't think it would help because the fraction is also different. The quality is also different.
Yes, but you would still need to treat it at the location where you bring it to.
Yeah, but my point is that even if it is defined in terms of how it transports, but the quality sometimes it is a much black water and other fraction of wastewater, and sometimes it's just only black water, but it turns out as the same as road transport. So by that definition, it would not help in terms of Phnom Penh case, but perhaps it is applicable in other setting.
Okay. Speaking of road transport, you also add then again to your heavy metal problem, right? So another quote that I got from the IWA conference a couple of weeks ago was a big statement saying, why with the whole approach of this type of wastewater, let's call it that, we insist so much on keeping alive the whole transportation of the sludge by trucks. So what we are basically doing is replacing our sewer systems by a fossil-fueled transportation system. Because in fact, you're still moving wastewater away from the household to a location for treatment. And in many countries, it's under the ground in a sewer system, and in many, many other countries, it's by road by truck. Would you agree to this, that this is a similar approach by making it fossil-fueled?
I think avoiding using fossil fuels would be a best option. Perhaps it also, by transporting the sludge to the disposal site or to the treatment plants, it uses fuel and it's contributing to the cost as well as it contributes to the greenhouse gas emission, I would say. Even I don't actually know how much it is, but it is there. But then, how could we do about it? It seems like when we do something, there might be plus and minus always. And perhaps work into the alternative to replace the fuel use would be another option. Or again, back into source separations, which we can make use of the sludge on site, so then avoiding transport it on road.
Would that be feasible downtown Phnom Penh?
I would say no in the central of Phnom Penh, but there might be feasible in peri-urban area of Phnom Penh, which they do not have the drainage network. Most of them. And also in peri-urban of Phnom Penh, there is also agricultural land, which is feasible perhaps in terms of reducing the sludge again back to agriculture.
But then pathogen removal is very crucial, because then you're making your chain very short. So then your pathogen inactivation is a very important step that cannot be forgotten, obviously. Okay. If you could please put up slide 8. Sorry. It seems so short number of slides.
Is it?
Yes. Your nice shit flow diagram. I'm not sure if you're still allowed to call it like that. You say I have a safe flux of 0 and an unsafe flux of 100%. That's what the numbers say in the publication.
Yep.
Do you personally agree to that?
Yeah, we I remember I had a discussion with John on that. Since it's kind of, if we look at the picture, that is the wetland, one of the wetlands, which I mentioned earlier that it play a key role as the natural wastewater treatment. By considering its role as the natural purification system, this zero unsafe is not correct. Yeah. But that's how it is in the report, I would say. But yeah, I mean, there is some purification still, but even if I don't have the update data on how much or what is the removal efficiency of the wetland, but I think a study almost 10 years ago confirmed if the wetland is filled up to 22% of the total land area, the purification capacity will be reduced.
You're on the paper. I checked. It's the modeling paper.
Yes.
Also your colleague here.
Yes.
Yes. But that's crucial information. Yeah.
Yes.
And you can also get from the modeling, which was also partially validated, what the wetland actually does. So what in my view would be very interesting if you would take those numbers and project it on your shift flow diagram and show how effective your wetland actually is, making sure that it's not used as an excuse to dump everything untreated into the wetland, because that is a huge risk, right?
Yeah.
You have a very elegant system that you have your septic tank separate, and you're nice if you could take your sludge in another facility, but have your drainage really treated here. But making sure that you use the capacity that is there and not overuse it. So if you now look at your containment systems and your emptying, transport, treatment, and use, taking into account that your wetland actually does have a treatment role, where would you expect the changes? Sorry, I'm not responsible for the setting here.
No problem. Direct discharge. I think that is something here.
That's also what I would say. Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. And of course, what is it? The SFDs really help in making visible where the problems are, and that really helps. But what it doesn't do is make a distinguish between partial treatment or no treatment at all, right? And so what you could do to make this more obvious and show the relationship between treatment and your wetland is to cut it into pieces and say, I do have a treatment for my nitrogen, for my phosphorus. Heavy metals, I have my concerns. I would picture a big layer of sludge that can serve as urban mining in the future. But pathogen removal, you will also have, because you do have also other bacteria grazing, and there's no chance for reproduction. It depends, of course, which pathogens you have, because some might still, helminths you could still have for a long time after it. But a quite substantial pathogen removal step you will have. You go up the food chain, and it will disappear at some point. So there you do have a big potential that you're not using.
Yes, I think so. It seems like we have not actually recognized the value of the wetland. So
Yes.
it is just there.
But also the vulnerability.
Yeah.
So it's a very thin line. Yes. Okay. What I also found fascinating is the picture that you showed with the truck that already had all the heavy metals contained into them. What was your motivation to do that? Because it still goes into the factory, and then it still goes into your resource recovery options.
You mean the truck with the heavy metal in?
Yes, and also the nitrogen and the phosphorus. Yes.
Yes, I think we try to speculate. Where is it? Yeah. Is it this one?
Yes. So, what are you trying to show here?
I think I just want to show with the current management and with the current practice of having faecal sludge collected either from the containment that is not connected or the containment that is connected. So we have a mixture of faecal sludge perhaps contain those material, no, those elements.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But now you have for the different settings, you have one truck leading to one heavy metal loaded pathogenic sludge mixture, right? So I think it's an interesting part that you highlighted so much, even though if you look at the categories, you only see that mercury and zinc are elevated numbers. But I think it's nice that you give attention to this, but this there should be a red cross through this, right? Because now you're bringing it into, but that's what you're aiming for, what you're advocating, that you should have a cut between the heavy metals and your resource recovery. My other question is, why would you put such a high-tech factory here?
Are you referring to the solar drying and vermicomposting?
No, I'm referring to the green picture with that. I work now for the public government. Pictures play a big role.
Yeah, sorry for that. It makes you confused.
Even though it's green, it doesn't really help. You're sending out a message that the only way we can deal with this is to have a high, and it might be true, right? Because we come back to the earlier part of the discussion that it might indeed be true that you want to go for pyrolysis because of the composition of your wastewater, which highlights the importance of your research is to do proper qualification, quantification. That shows that you need a different treatment than you could do in another setting. So, but this gives out a strong signal. I can only deal with this in a high-tech factory. That's
okay. Yeah, I think I had struggling with look into the symbol of the treatment technology, which the plan was to have it different from one slide to another, given the fact that also different technology that is identified as suitable for each alternative. But I failed to get a different picture of treatment. But thank you for the good one.
Well, it gives the whole point of your thesis, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so
I'm wondering whether it's a good time
for
a leg stretcher now.
That's okay. Yes, I'll keep my question for the next.
Good.
After the break, yes.
Let's take 10 minutes. Okay, so let's continue.
So I just got permission to do 10 more minutes. Yeah, I know. We don't want to kill this poor lady. Another question that I came across, it says page 3, but it is in the methods of paper 1, I think. Oh, paper 4, actually. You have a table that says this is a list of sustainability indicators and respective sub-indicators used for the MCA scoring of the FSM options. And then, now, of course, there's a huge list which we also use to assess our feasibility of our new treatment plant. It's also wastewater, different setting, but same kind of list. But then, in the operation and maintenance section, you only have the expected daily O&M cost compared with planted drying bed system. What would be a hesitation to look only at cost? What could you imagine other things that would play a role in operation and maintenance in the decision-making process?
It is about the financial cost.
No, it's about sustainability indicators. Finance plays a huge role in sustainability, but by far not the only one.
Yes, but perhaps you might also have noticed that there's also other criteria in.
Yes, I've noticed there are many criteria, but this is the one on operation maintenance. Because in public acceptance, that's not the point that I'm looking for. In the environmental criteria, is not the point that I am looking for.
But I mean, I don't actually get your point.
And that's what I thought. So the operation and maintenance, you said, well, for me,
Yeah.
of course, yeah, cost is an issue, but that's an indicator of its own, and that's then subdivided into capex and opex. Yeah, but now you look at operation and maintenance, and what there plays a key role. Is this system foolproof or not? You know, can this be operated? You said it before, like, I cannot build this plant because I don't have the operators to run it. And that is like, people can learn anything as long as you give them the time and the knowledge, and people can get used to and be trained in lots of things, but there should be time for it, there should be motivation for it, there should be incentives to do it. So what I'm really missing, what is a key point in many of the systems that are failing, is that there's no willingness to learn and there's no motivation to keep things running. So that is a crucial element that will really make a difference between, am I interested in taking care of my black soldier flies, or do I care about my plants in my planted drying system, or can I keep my pyrolysis plant running? Their motivation and being able to operate these systems is a crucial element.
I think what you mentioned on that is about, I think it related to staff capacity, if I'm not wrong. And then I think the plan was to have it in the institutional criteria, which then we excluded since we have found the lack of knowledge of the sector stakeholder on that.
I can understand that, but you can still judge a system by, is this operable or not?
Mm-hmm.
So I also thought, okay, then maybe it's under the robustness of the technology, but there you only deal with shock loads, which is also fair, but it doesn't take into account the factor that you have human resources that need to have the skills and the motivation to be able to operate such a system, right? And also that we talk a lot in bigger plans about redundancy, that you operate the system into different pathways, so that if you always have the option to take one out for longer term renovation, or by fixing pumps, because you also work a lot with pumping stations, and you also work a lot with more or less higher technical systems. So that's a crucial element. Of course, it is also, you said before, like availability of chemicals is an issue. Yes, of course, availability of energy. So that should all play a role in your robustness, but also the effect that people should be there to, and also have the motivation to learn. Yeah? So that's a crucial element that I miss here. And another point that I wrote back here in my own notes, in your thesis and in the book, is greenhouse gas emission. You also mentioned it a few times already earlier. Please talk me through the greenhouse gas emissions in the current system and the system that you have in your dream.
I think if I move a bit to the slides.
In the backup slides. Very good.
Yeah, so I think we include a bit on the climate impact in MCA scoring by having GHG emission as a sub-indicator, and then we compare with the emission from the 4 treatment technology, which include solar drying, co-composting, vermicomposting, and the fly larvae composting, which is in paper 4. And then we gave only one for co-composting, given the fact that co-composting would reach thermophilic conditions and emit more GHG emission it compared to other technologies.
Which greenhouse gas are you emitting? And why is it elevated at thermophilic?
I think it is methane and carbon dioxide. The more GHGs and perhaps some of the NOx. Is it?
N2O.
Yes.
What is the definition of composting?
It's biodegradable of the organic fractions.
And what is the difference between composting and digesting?
Composting and digesting. I think if talking about the digestion, it's also breaking the organic matter, but then it produces the biogas,
Which is methane,
yes,
plus some other things.
yes, and mainly methane and carbon dioxide, if well operated.
In theory, CO2 produced from these kind of organic products are not counted in the greenhouse gas emissions because they're shorter chains. You don't use them from fossil fuel, so they don't add to your calculation. But I haven't heard the definition of composting yet. What do you need for composting? Why do you do this windrow turning? What is the purpose of that?
Getting them enough oxygen.
Exactly. So would you expect a lot of methane emission?
Would be less compared to anaerobic.
I would hope so, yes.
Yeah. But I mean, perhaps if compared to other technology in that case.
You have your vermicomposting, which is also a composting technique. And then, yeah, black soldier fly, of course, that's a whole different concept altogether. So my point is, like, it is a bit tricky to put these greenhouse gas emissions, and it really depends also on the system boundaries. Because so could you talk me through what are the system boundaries of, for example, the black soldier fly here? Which aspects did you take into account?
Yeah, I think this slide explains, perhaps responding to your questions. For the black soldier flies, that would supposed to have a temperatures of 29 to 31, and with the solid content can be vary from 10 to 40. And yes, it uses the flies to convert organic matter into the lava biomass.
What do you do when you make an estimation about the greenhouse gas emission of a certain technology? Which factors do you add up?
I think mainly the main focus was on the optimum temperature that the treatment system would reach.
Okay, so you add also a factor for reaching this temperature.
Yeah.
Okay, and you put some greenhouse gas emission on top of that. So depending on which type of fuel that you use or which kind of energy source to get to this temperature, that is a part of your greenhouse gas emission estimation.
I think we did not work in that detail, but it just on the performance of the system itself, saying that, again, repeat to what I said earlier, we assume co-composting, which operate in a higher temperature, and perhaps it has a higher methane emissions, no GHG emissions. Yeah.
Well, and okay. I would say using greenhouse gas emission can make a big statement for your system, because greenhouse gas emissions play a huge role in all sorts of decision making. But then you do need to make it very accurate and make sure that and it will also help you to be able to judge other kind of systems and other kind of suggestions to judge it for its greenhouse gas potential emission. So typically what I would also look for in this kind of calculation is how much transportation is needed in order to this. The key of composting that it reaches this high temperature is because it's a very exothermic reaction. So it doesn't really require a lot of energy from you to put into the system. It just needs this oxygen to reach this temperature. Right? So of course you will have some kind of emission because there will always be parts that are not aerobic, but a lot less than leaving your septic tank, because there you already have a lot of breakdown, a lot of emissions. So that's why I was looking for what is your system boundary and what do you take into account. Also what happens with the larvae after you produce them, what happens with your compost after you have it, will you transport it by road to another location or can you use it close by? All these things add up to your system boundaries. And that will all play a role also in this criteria and in your selecting criteria. So be very critical also to your own and ask, re-question yourself, do I have now everything into account? Okay.
Yeah, thanks for the comments.
That's why I'm here. One other, I have 3 more questions. My first one is, I see a lot of numbers in your tables that end with a lot of zeros. That says 570,000 and then it's 000. Can you tell me a little bit about the significance of your data? Like, how did you let statistics also play a role in your tables? I know you did it a lot with looking for what are the factors that play a role in my qualification quantification, because there you show very nice statistics like this correlates and that doesn't, this is a crucial factor and this is not. Sorry, but I see a lot of tables with and a lot of zeros. Have you been consequent in looking into your statistical analysis?
I am not
I'm sorry,
sure
I cannot reproduce very quickly because I wrote it in quite some tables. You think about the answer and I look for the table.
which table you are talking about, but with a lot of zero, perhaps we try to round it up, having the 2 significant numbers. That is one reason. And with the reporting of the p-value, I think for those which is lower than 0.001, then reported as just like 0.0001.
Yes, of course, with the P's, I get it.
Yes.
But you also have, I think it was in the tables where you show the quantities of fecal sludge, and there you end up with a lot of zeros.
Now
Be careful with that. Yeah, because it gives the suspicion that it's a very general. Yes, thank you. That one. So it gives a feeling of accuracy which is not really there, right? And that's okay because you're looking into the bigger numbers. But pay attention to these kind of numbers that you don't. You suggest the kind of accuracy that is not present in your data.
Yeah.
Okay.
I sometimes getting confused on that because saying, for example, like 601, which might not make sense, so we better to say 600. For example, the total figures like NP for Q4 is actually 106, but then by having 2 significant numbers, then I should report 110.
I get it. If you would add a K to the top, it would help you a lot. Okay, a question. In the Netherlands, when you get your doctorate degree, you also are pointed out that you now have responsibilities as an academic researcher, because it's not only a right that you now get to put doctor on your papers, but it also gives you an academic responsibility. So you need to have good research, make sure that you question all the findings and that you educate others and that you take responsibility for the data that you produce. So my question to you is, how are you going to give shape to this academic responsibility?
And you just say your question again. I feel like it's a big responsibility.
It is. Yeah, so you will now, this is the PhD defense, this is the end of your doctorate research. And after this, you will not only have the right of being a doctor, but you also get a responsibility for doing proper research and to make sure that you educate others in detail and make sure that they also get good researchers. How are you going to give, what will be your take on this, doing this responsibility right?
I think if talking about the responsibility as a, I would not say a researcher. I'm not really. I have not been appointed as a researcher in Cambodia, but doing some research work and teaching. I think I have taken all the responsibility already there. I mean, since I was there, the last before I came here, by providing accurate knowledge and also providing good quality education in environmental science majors at home already there. But holding a higher degree, I feel it's a bit like a more responsibility and more burden. I need to really taking care of what is my performance in response to holding a higher degree compared to a previous degree that I have had.
Thank you. Nice answer. Now my question, I have two more. One is, assume you win the lottery and you can only spend it on academic research. And you would have 2 PhD students at your disposal and 3 master students. Or another option would be to redo some of your own work or to add more to this work. What would be your first 3 research topics that you would set these people to work?
I would first go for supernatant, which is quite interesting area, and also there is no any information on what is the quality of those supernatants. And then the other one, people talk a lot about source separation here. Even my supervisor
Only talks about.
yes, which is quite interesting, and it's a bit, I would say it's a new concept, but it's still not new, given the fact that the on-site containment units also, I mean, some of the households, they already have separations. So it would be more interesting in terms of resource recovery from that source separations. So I would like to go into details about that. Perhaps acceptability levels or at a technical research topic on would go for the first option, saying separate from black water and other wastewater fractions.
And would then Phnom Penh be your research area, or would you move it a bit outside of the city?
I think I would still explore Phnom Penh. It is a capital city. Since I mean, if the capital is already polluted, how could that be? Like, I mean, other cities be better in my point of view, and also I am more interested in urban setting rather than go to rural setting.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel it is even easier in source separation system in a rural setting. So if Phnom Penh is feasible, then why
it
not?
can work anywhere.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Second topic.
Exactly, we missed one.
I recently went through on-site sanitation and GHG emission.
Excellent.
And I was surprised to see the conclusion saying that there is high emission from on-site sanitation system. But if I click on that, we are going to show you this slide. out of more than 2,000 published papers, there was only 8 papers that were conducted in a field-based method for measuring GHG emissions. And I want to be the other 9.
That's a good mission. And my final question is, assuming that there's no political agendas, there's purely a green field, unlimited money, unlimited resources, purely hypothetical, in 20 years, how would Phnom Penh look like in terms of sanitation when you could redesign it?
Well,
you have your wetlands, you have your septic tanks, you have your drainage system.
I would say it depends on the driver. If we follow the current system with the existing natural wetland, which we still believe it has some natural purification capacity, and if we go for salt separations, which again reduce the burden of sending black water, which is high concentration of nutrients and other organic matter, perhaps wetland would perform better. So in that sense, without any political will, and if we as the academic institutions can play a key role in the decision making, which I wish I be part of it, then I think we will have a better environment, and we will not report a 0% safely managed service.
Excellent.
Yeah, which really, I mean, I have a big dream of being part of the decision maker on that.
Thank you. Chairperson, I'm very satisfied.
Great, thank you very much, Mariska. Maybe a round of applause. Now we're going to move to the examination committee, and I ask you who wants to start.
The person who comes first.
Oh, I think it's on.
Yeah, the person who comes furthest gets to go first. So first of all, congratulations. I really enjoyed reading your thesis. I learned a lot from it. Congratulations on your answers to the opponent's questions too, many of which were on my list. So I don't have too many additional ones, but I'll ask you a few. My first question is, are there other fecal sludge quality parameters of importance to agricultural reuse or energy recovery that you would have measured, that you could have measured, that you didn't measure? Other quality parameters?
Other quality parameters, I think it is potassium. That limits, that limits to measure it.
Any others?
Pathogens.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
Which ones maybe?
I think, which one of these? If I go to MCAs, then I have the list of total coliform or E. coli, fecal streptococcus, and Halmin H. And vice the way, fecal streptococcus, it is included in our local organic fertilizer standard.
Yeah, okay. Since you're on this slide, this is my next question was about the MCA. And I had a lot of questions about the greenhouse gas thing also, but you've already discussed that. But I guess I was wondering, what were the biggest sort of gaps in knowledge that you found when you were doing this MCA? That's what I always find the most interesting thing of MCA is sometimes it's really hard to rank things just because there isn't literature. And how much of your ranking was just based on sort of your own understanding of theory as opposed to evidence?
I think it's a challenge a bit. I mean, that's why I mentioned earlier that it took me a year to get this paper written. And also because the fact that it is new to me, perhaps. It is difficult to actually extrapolate from the literature review and making as Phnom Penh. I would say that is really difficult, and also it's totally based on the literature saying, for example, co-composting, which we believe it perform in a higher temperature, which can actually inactivate the pathogens, but we are not sure in the practical life if it happened the same as what we assume in the literature, and giving the scores like that. So yeah.
Okay, yeah. So yeah, I would have been interested to know, I guess, yeah, what were the biggest sort of questions in your MCA? But yeah, that's good how you've answered it, I think. I guess I'm a big fan of vermicomposting, so I was really pleased that you considered it as an option. Why do you have vermicompost as a 3 and black soldier fly as a 5 for greenhouse gas emissions? Do you remember?
I think it was based on the expert judgment, and by the way, expert judgment was myself and supervisor group, which
That's okay. That's
yeah.
okay. I think that whole row. I agree with your. I think your third PhD project suggestion about measuring greenhouse gas emissions, because I think that whole row there needs more evidence to support that part of the MCA. Yeah. Yeah. And just one more question, if that's okay. So still related to vermicomposting, but I mean, what of the 3 sort of main options that you considered for the city, would another option be to consider for the people who don't have on-site sanitation or connections currently, to look at whether there are ways to treat the waste on-site, so within the toilets, because that would eliminate a lot of the transportation and collection problems. You might be able to reduce the greenhouse gas emissions from the toilets. Was that something you considered? Or are there technological options for that?
I think there are some technology that I went through. Is it called? I think container-based sanitation, something, which I think they discuss a bit on how to mitigate the GHG emission from on-site sanitation by introducing other like container-based sanitation, which I think they conclude that it can be kind of low emissions or negligible GHG emission compared to other technology, which I think again it might be feasible for a peri-urban context rather than the central one, which is really a challenge in changing the whole infrastructure. Yeah.
Have you heard of tiger worm toilets before?
Yeah, I went through one of your papers.
Do you think that could work in the Phnom Penh setting, in peri-urban areas maybe?
Yeah, I think so. It's more. I mean, it's more feasible with the peri-urban area where they have agricultural land, or perhaps a rural area as well, where they can get the reduced product for agricultural land. Yeah.
And do people in Cambodia use vermicomposting already for other purposes?
I would say no. The technology is a bit new to us, and to my knowledge, there's also an NGO. They try to like conducting an experiment on that, but then it seems like they fails to have it implement, or because of we actually external resource dependent country and obviously NGO, and then it just like perhaps a short time project, then it's just gone.
Okay, thank you very much. Thanks again and congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. I really enjoyed and learned a lot. And since I am not so familiar with this situation in Asia, I'm more familiar with the situation in Europe and Africa and Muslim countries and something like that. And then I would like to ask you, some questions. Like, with this situation in the anal cleaning, do you use a paper or water for anal cleaning? Because this toilet paper is a quite big amount of the organic matter in the system.
Yeah, but for our current practice, we use water for anal cleansing, and also we use tissue paper, but we do not dispose it in the toilets as in at least in here.
Okay.
Yeah. So we dispose of the tissue paper in as the solid waste.
So
I would say
it would stuck the pipes and increase the amount of salts quite significantly, yes. Then you mentioned that you have this open drainage where you can dispose these supernatant or leachate. Are these kind of open channels, are they something like a problem? For example, for the disposal of improper open defecation or something like that, animals, or perhaps the sink of the industrial effluents?
I think yes. In terms of go back to the wetland, it receives all types of wastewater, including stormwater and domestic wastewater, as well as the industrial effluent. And it seems the wetland itself. I remember that I did a study more than 10 years ago, confirming there are also heavy metal contamination in the wetland and in the agricultural foodstuff that they grow on the wetland itself. So it seems the industrial effluent also sent through the wetland.
So what type of industry you have around this urban area? Textile?
Yeah, mainly garment factory, textiles,
very
food.
nasty compounds coming from. Then I'm very interested about the health situations and would this kind of the open drainage or the use of this solid matter in farms, for example, do you have this kind of a burden of the diseases? What are problem with this, like mosquitoes or parasites, which related to this sanitation system?
I think it's mainly for those who are living along the canals. I mean, I would say the poor community, but in general, well, I don't want to say anything, Sima. I'm not quite sure on that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So no major problem with ascariasis, for example, in the.
I would say I don't know.
Okay. And then I switch to the chemical problems. Like I myself, I've been studying these pharmaceuticals, antibiotics, and also antibiotic-resistant genes. Do you have been studying, or are these problems in your country, or these very sexy, these microplastics in the water stream?
I mean, there is a concern in terms of the quantity of plastic generated in the cities, but it seems there is no actual study on the microplastic. Yes, and I'm not quite sure what was the other question.
Antibiotics.
Antibiotic.
And pharmaceuticals and antibiotic resistance formation.
I think there are some study on that by a research center and the Ministry of Agriculture, Forestry and Fishery and Forestry, but I am not up to date on that.
And you had several techniques to solve this issue, and one of those was soil separation and particularly collection of urine. And that is my personal favorite technology. How do you think, for example, in Finland we have in every community we have a collection of the paper and plastic and cardboard and metal and glass and bio-waste. Would it be possible to have this kind of source separation of urine, that every family would carry the 2 liters per day urine into some container? Is it acceptable in Asia, or is it a stigma?
I don't think it is feasible.
You don't
First of
think?
all, yeah, I mean carrying,
Packets?
yeah,
Chamber pot?
because I mean, if talking about urine,
Yeah.
if I am not wrong, even my supervisor group, they did some study, I don't know, in the past years, saying about urine fertilizer, and they have found the low acceptability levels as compared to other type of fertilizer, and perhaps we suspect about the use of the word urine. And so this is in Swedish community, and you can imagine there are people perhaps might be, I mean, in terms of general knowledge to the general public, we are a bit quite low in terms as compared to here. Then I would just speculate that the acceptability level would be less.
But with a very little volume, 2 liters or 1.5 liters per day per person, you could solve a lot of problems. Nitrogen, phosphorus, pharmaceuticals, hormones, and then instead of diluting it, the bigger volume of the water, it is very difficult to treat. By you haven't emphasized very much the problems of the nitrogen and phosphorus when it comes to the question of eutrophication. Is the eutrophication any problem with your leachate or supernatant or something like that? Should they be removed from the liquid phase in order to prevent the eutrophication of the water bodies? Is this a problem?
I mean, if you go to the wetland or to the pumping station where I collected sludge, it is dirty. It is smelly there. But I suspect if it is already eutrophications happen already there, that is questionable, which I am not sure if it is yes or no. But I agree that that is the heavy load of nutrient discharge into the wetland.
I'm not so familiar with this urban hydrological cycle of it, but could all those nasty compounds end up to the drinking water sources of your city?
There is a chance, because from the wetland, then it goes to, if I go back to the study area slide. So this is the wetland, and this is where I collected the sludge, and this is the receiving reservoir. I mean, that's called Tonle-sap. And from this side, this is this is Tonle-sap, sorry, and this is Tonle-sap. So this is another big wetland in the north of the city, and from these wetlands, it discharges to Tonle Sap, and then from this they mix together somewhere here that is called Four Face River, and they take the water from here to treat and supplies the whole city.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I think that I'm quite happy with this, and once again I want to thank you and congratulate you on this very nice work.
Thank you.
Okay, so you're nearly done now. Yes, I also want to thank you for a very clear presentation. I think for really inspiring discussion with your opponent, and especially also for a very well written thesis. It was really, really great to read. Let me start with a comment. So I think this discussion that you had about the greenhouse gas emission, I think that was very inspiring. And I think this is a topic that you really should focus on. So my main background is on anaerobic digestions, and we have recently been challenged by the system methane emissions that have now been detected by doing better measurements that we actually see from the sludge or digestate handling after the process, that there are a lot of emissions related to that if we don't handle that properly, that can actually destroy all the benefits that we have with the system in the first place. So by now learning a little bit more about the emissions maybe from the on-site treatment, maybe we will learn something similar. And that could actually impact how the system on-site might look like in the future, because maybe it will need to be redesigned in order to keep also the benefits from having such a system. So that will be very interesting to follow. So I hope you will get the chance to follow up on that. Then I think there was already a similar question being asked by your opponent on a little bit if it would be your free choice to design a system. I would take the question a little bit further by saying, I mean, you're not limited to the city now. You can take the general context of wastewater treatment. And if you would be free to choose, you have seen different systems. You have systems in Sweden, centralized system, decentralized system that use different technology, have different backgrounds in is it treatment, is it recovery that is in the focus. So if it would be your free choice of designing a wastewater treatment system, how would that look like? What would be important for you to consider?
I think, okay, so I would go back to the different fraction of wastewater. So we believe and we agree that different fractions contain different compositions, and the high potential for nutrient recovery would be from black water, or more specifically from urine. But how could we go further to separate even just urine from other fractions? That is a key challenge. And perhaps based on the previous experience, based on the literature, that they implement the source separations, mainly there is a key driver. Saying, for instance, in South Africa, they face the challenge in having enough water, and they flush every 5 times or something. So I think in that case, we actually need a driver to move forward to a source separation, to a completely source separation. It means that perhaps it is not feasible to just try to introduce something that is new and requires the heavy modification of the infrastructure. Yeah. So to me, perhaps we should start with something that is more simple and try to look for the opportunity in the near future, rather than introduce something that is really nice and well designed, but it might not work.
Okay, thank you. And I think my last question is a little bit towards your PhD and the setup of your PhD. If I now assume that it's similar, that you had a similar setup as one of my PhD students that is studying in Mozambique, partly and partly in Sweden. So what would you say were the main challenges and what has worked very, very well? Having the chance to study like in different countries in completely different contexts and somewhat trying to get this knowledge together to a very holistic understanding.
Just want to clarify a bit on that, because even if I am entitled as a sandwich PhD student, but my work is 100% here. Yeah, so I think my first years of being here in Sweden, and I attended a mentorship program, and I heard a lot about the supervisor saying it is difficult to supervise sandwich students, given the fact that they spend half time at home and there is no progress. So I take a chance of being at home to do more the data collection, more field work, rather than doing the writing work. So that is my strategies, I would say. And also, if the real challenge, I think, is about the pandemic, which I could not travel when the plan was to travel back home. Then I need to extend the stay. But I also see COVID as a positive side. Then I can take the course while I was at home. And also with the reach of Zoom, which enabled me to meet my supervisor group regularly, which also helped to speed up the process. So wherever I would say we stay in touch.
For me, it looks really like a successful collaboration and that it worked very well. So it's good to share the experience of how it worked very well. Because I think it's not for all the PhD students in the same way. So thanks again for this excellent work.
Thank you.
Thank you. So now it's open up to the floor if there are any questions.
Yes, thank you for the nice presentation. I was wondering, given the heavy metal content of the sludge that you found and that the wetland at the moment and possibly also in the future will be used as a kind of natural treatment plant, do you know if the heavy metals in the wetland accumulate over time and at what rate? Would there be problems in the future if we would do this, like using wetlands as purification of sludge? There's so much heavy metal in
Yeah, I mean, I do not have the actual rate for, the update information, but based on our study, I think more than 10 years ago, we published a paper on that, saying there is the contamination levels of heavy metals in the vegetables that grow in the wetland. So it's posed a bit of significant risk since from that wetlands they grow morning glories as the main vegetable that supplies to, I don't know if it's whole Phnom Penh or some part of Phnom Penh, but yes, we eat that morning glory. So there is a health concern on that if we keep doing so, and obviously there is the heavy metal accumulation in wetland, I would say, but I do not have the updated information on how much it is.
I was wondering about the institutional criteria because you had to ignore it because what I was wondering about that was in relation to the alternatives that you present as solutions going forward, how do you relate those with the fact that you have such low institutional base to support implementing the solutions?
I think we discussed a bit in paper 4 saying since co-composting it's outperformed compared to other 3 technologies. But then if we include perhaps institutional criteria in the assessment, we might have end up with solar drying is the best alternative among the 4. The fact is that co-composting, by the way, is a combination of having fecal sludge and organic fractions of municipal solid waste. And municipal solid waste is managed by other institutions. So the challenge is to actually coordinate between different institutions to get the sludge and the solid waste. So in that sense, we assume it is difficult and it is a challenge, and perhaps the stakeholder, they do not want to do so, then they do not want to coordinate that much, and then solar drying would be the best alternative. And technology is also not that really complicated.
But the fact that you disregard that criteria shows something. It's an indication that these are technologies that are not really known in your local context, right? But you still propose them as alternatives or solutions going forward. So how do you bridge that gap between low institutional support and the possible solutions that you want to implement?
No, I would not say low institutional support, but perhaps it's low institutional capacity. I think if compared to other technologies that we recover, that can recover as a source of energy, this is already, it is already less complicated. By the way, we include process complexity already in the prerequisite, and that meaning that the technologies they are already simpler compared to others, and perhaps with referring to what Mariska mentioned about the skill maintenance, the willingness to learn, and if they are willingness to learn, perhaps that would help.
Just one more question about the heavy metals. You say that during the rainy season, there is this backflow back into the septic tank that brings water that is now contaminated with heavy metals. But does that mean that the house gets flooded, that the water comes back through the toilet into the house?
I can show you a picture on that. Wait. If you look at this picture I took in one household. So this is the overflow from the manhole in front of the house. So it is from this manhole it connected to the containment inside the house. Yeah. So I hope it describes. Yeah.
Thank you for a very nice presentation. I would like to ask, it's quite interesting that they have black water separation, even though the recycling of resources is not the driving force. What is the driving force for having black water separation? Because it seems that it's feasible in some areas.
So I am in this picture. So you just want to show this. This is how other types of wastewater fractions recharge. So in the poor community in Pariaban area, where they have the containment that capture only black water, and they do not have the containment connected to the drainage network, this is how they discharge their other wastewater fractions. So, I mean, they are doing source separation, but they don't know what they are doing source separation.
Any other question?
Just one last thing about nutrients. What I'm wondering is, in a developing context, we always have limited resources. We have limited resources everywhere, but it's even more restricted in a developing context. What element should we focus on the most as the next solution for the next 5 years? So let's say we have very little money to build something. So should I focus on carbon capture? Should I focus on phosphorus removal and capture? Or nitrogen is the... we would like to recover everything, and we would like to remove all the pollutants when we are recycling, but given the limited resources, what should we focus on? From a Phnom Penh context.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I don't know what is the element that you mentioned, which one that we are lacking of, okay? But to my context, I would go for a more simple technology that could capture either one of those or some of those, rather than going for a complex technology and captures, for example, nitrogen or phosphorus, but then it might end up with not really working well. So I would go for a simple option. Whatever we can capture, we go for that.
Any final question?
Thank you very much for presentation and discussion. It's been very interesting. You have been mentioning this system with a lot of truck transport, and also you discussed a bit around it, that there will be potential for optimization. I realized that the choice of system may have to go first, and then you solve the transport between facilities, depending on what kind of system you have. But still, I wonder if you would like to say something about how you could limit transport. First of all, how big of a problem is it? I could imagine that transport in big cities are often like a big hassle overall. So is it a special problem to have wastewater trucks running around also in this probably quite congested traffic? And then, how would you go about to limit the number of transport and the transport distances as well?
I think I discussed a bit in the thesis about introducing regular desludging interval, so that they can plan for some specific zone and go for these desludgings there. I mean, so that perhaps the transportation would be, the frequency or the long distance transport would be reduced as well, since the truck need to just go to a specific assigned zone at some point and go to other assigned zone at some points. So that would help to reduce the transport distance as well.
But this still sounds to me as a way to handle the transport demand in a better way, to optimize the transport as such. But what would you say about limiting the transport demand on the whole? Maybe to have more localized systems and not treat everything in one place?
Yeah, I think I agree. I agree on that. If we but perhaps it is not feasible for the central city. But again, it is feasible for peri-urban area where we can introduce the containment system that might work. For example, the tiger toilets that might treat it on site and then use the treated sludge in agricultural purpose. At the same time, reduce the transportation frequency.
Last question. What I was wondering is, you have the truck and you have the drain. When you go to do the desludging, many times we add water for the desludging operation. At that point, does it make sense to have the truck going out, or should we just desludge and put it back into the drain and have one centralized treatment at the end of all the drains?
Some of the truck driver, they did that when they, but they did that because I think because it was not a clogging issue. If it is clogging issue, perhaps they dare not to put the sludge back to the manhole. So that's why with my spatial analysis, we start from zero. It means they charge the sludge at the manhole. Yeah.
Okay. Do you want to ask one more question, please? No? Any other question? So I just have a question, Eliyan. How are you feeling?
I'm very relaxed.
Great. So I think with that we finalize this session, and we thank you very much for a very good advice.